these three. Right.
That was a great presentation. Thanks, Dave. We are really excited to be here. This session gives us a chance, I think, to shine a light, focus on the thing that we really care about at Ozone, and that's the premium web. But really importantly, I guess better defining what that premium web is, because premium is subjective. People have different ideas as to what premium might mean. But for us, it's largely the part of the internet, part of the web where I'd imagine advertisers want to appear, where real people hang out, where quality content that's regulated is consumed, and where people are dwelling for longer and so on. The added benefit is that better outcomes are driven for advertisers. We live in a digital world. My guests live in a multi-channel world, if you like. So I think that premise of it matters where ads run, the environments that advertising runs in matters, applies actually to every channel, which hopefully we can get into a little bit today too. The session title is called Picking Premium. Is medium still the message? Obviously, I was well read on this communications theorist, but Marshall McLuhan, 60 years ago, when he wrote the book, I think it was, Understanding Media, an Extension of Man, said that it did, and said that it was. Medium is the message. By that he meant, I think, that the environment the advertising runs in can be and is as powerful as the creative and the message itself. And that needs to be considered. And I think sometimes with all of the great stuff we've seen today, that can get lost in translation somewhat. I couldn't think of two better guests, legends in their own right, to join me to discuss this on a better advertiser in a better year as the government in an election year. But to my left, I've got Sophia Joani. Welcome. Sophia's spent over 17 years looking, sorry to age everybody, you're even longer. 17 years looking after massive brands, J&J, Xbox, H&M, but looks after all planning, public sector planning in Manning, Gottlieb, R&D. So thank you for joining. And then slightly older Paul Knight. You don't look it, if that's any benefit. But 28 years in Manning, Gottlieb, runs, of course, CEO of OmniGov, 150 plus people, 60 plus, 70 plus departments, all of which are probably a client in their own right in terms of size and scale, and important other advertisers like Gamble Aware. So given time served, probably well placed to talk about how things have changed when it comes to premium and what that means. So picking premium, we make no secret that it matters at Ozone. Before we get into that, and I'll try not to be too Ozone today, I've promised, as an opener, maybe Sophia first. Outside of media, outside of our industry, outside of work, just generally in everyday life, what does premium mean to you? What kind of emotions, feelings, experiences does that? I mean, what does that mean to you?
So I think if I put my consumer hat on, it's very much about sort of taking a step away from the day-to-day. It's about something that's a little bit special. It's about something that I'm willing to have some kind of value exchange for, whether that's exchanging my time, my money, my data. It's about stepping out of the ordinary. Although I would say, though, from a consumer's perspective, it probably is slightly different. I think what they see as being premium probably varies from person to person. And as a result, I think that's probably something that we should dig into today. Yeah,
definitely. Nighty, what do you?
I think premium has so many different meanings, and it's back to the point. Us as consumers, what does it mean for us? For me, it's about probably quality. And I know we'll get on to different definitions of premium and quality, but if I was thinking back to the value exchange thing, for me personally, brands such as Amazon, Spotify, they are quality to me because they fit in with my lifestyle. And convenience, speed, ease, so things like that. And I think this comes back to a lot of how our world's become very complex now, because it's down to every individual consumer of brands or of media in terms of what we need to adhere to.
And just because something's premium, with my consumer hat on rather than my media hat on, being a bit provocative, probably that doesn't necessarily mean that I will automatically engage with it. I might recognise that something produces or somewhere produces premium quality content, But if it doesn't align with those interests, those passions, my lifestyle, it's not necessarily for me. So there's kind of lots of factors that go into what I want to engage with.
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? And we discussed this before, actually, how it's our job probably to understand the nuance, really, and that premium means something different to probably every consumer in the UK and globally. And it could be any particular requirement, any particular point in time, that's premium. Trains running on time, for instance, this morning was a hugely premium experience for me. Yeah.
Lucky.
What does... now, thinking about media and advertising world, what do you think, maybe start with you, Nighty, on what you think premium should mean to brands? And in your experience, does it mean what you think it should mean to brands?
Yeah. So just sort of building on that quality in terms of my view, I think in our world, from an advertising perspective, I think the one thing that I would add to that is effective quality. And it's probably a bit similar to the definition of premium. It can mean so many things. So we were talking about this before. I think if we termed premium in our world as effective quality, I think you've got to look at the ingredients to what that means. And certainly from a government perspective, and I would argue from every brand's perspective, some of those ingredients should be transparency. We should know where we're spending and be very clear on what's doing what. I think brand safety for us as government is particularly important. Some of the platforms that were just mentioned there, we're not advertising on some of those platforms because of brand safety concerns. Value for money, always. Again, in our world, we're spending taxpayers' money, but that's the same for spending any brand's money. And I think the last point, back to the effective bit, is it has to be measurable. If we can't measure these things, then why are we doing them?
Yeah.
We're doing them for the sake of it. So I think it's a slightly broader definition of premium. It can mean different things to different brands and advertisers, but I think more importantly is what's the ingredients to that definition. That's the key bit.
It's a hot topic in the office at the moment. We're talking a lot about misinformation, disinformation, so trusted environments, and that's sort of what that means to consumers really matters. Yeah, interesting point you make. I will get this in. I think I read in Canada, since Facebook stopped supporting news media in Canada, the right-wing meme producers never seen such traffic. Someone Ballingshaw, I believe, on their Facebook page. So hugely important that premiumness or effective quality or premiums can be found.
Yeah.
In your experience, Sophia, because you obviously plan across the whole of the government planning and advertising function, which is huge. Those ingredients and the measurement of such ingredients cross-channel, is that an easy task? Is that easy to find? Are there like go-to places where it exists and then it's a constant experimentation as to where else?
Yeah, I mean, and we have test and learn frameworks if we want to try new areas. If we take premiumness and the definition that Paul was talking about with those sort of 4 factors, it's about trust, quality, transparency, and sort of some kind of accountability, then everything we do for government should hit that criteria.
Yeah.
That's part and parcel of our contracts with them.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. You know, there's always, especially when there's new sort of startups that we want to trial and what have you, and that can be a labour-intensive process, but it's something that we always aim for.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely feel that when you work with you guys. You do feel how important that is. Paul, you've been at Omnicom for 28 years. Don't know if I mentioned that already, but how has it changed? Like people say, context never went away as being important. We just lost our way. I've been in sessions this morning where instinct has somewhat been lost in lieu of relying too heavily on data, and we need to get back to that if AI is the threat that we think it is, and so on. Has it changed much? What premium means, or the things that advertisers like government are looking for?
I think, in my view, it sort of goes through sort of 4 or 5 year cycles. So again, whatever the definition of premium is, I would say probably 4 or 5 years ago, the hot topic in our industry is transparency. It's still important now, but it's more of a hygiene. I think brand safety is on the rise and will continue to rise with the explosion of MFAs, and we're seeing loads of things like that, mis and disinformation, etc. So I think it goes in waves. I think the biggest consistent, though, that I haven't really seen change, back to a word that you've just mentioned, is trust. in our industry, and I had a look at the Endelman Global Survey that I think came out earlier this year, which is done across 28 different countries. And even now, the UK, out of 28 countries, from a trust in media, and I know media can give journalism or channels that we use or advertising, we're the lowest country out of 28. And, you know, even the UK government, in terms of trust of governments, they're 3 from bottom. So we've still got a lot of work to do with trust. And actually, when you think about the complexity and the explosion and brand safety, and we had transparency, I think all of us have quite a big role to play in that, because it's not going to be one thing. And if we can abide by the right principles and look at the right levers to improve trust and also reduce distrust, I think that will help us going forward.
Yeah. What's really interesting, actually, though, is that if you look at trust in media split out by age groups, younger age groups are much more trusting of media outlets than anybody else.
That's really interesting. I mean, some would, I mean, my eldest of my 2 daughters, too trusting, relayed some information to me the other day, which I took as gospel. And I looked at it a few days later and found out it never happened. But we'd left the conversation both happy that that thing had happened. I think it's the worrying trend of removing links to news media from search, the worrying trend of not paying a fair price to support quality journalism or the premium web, places where real people go to be informed, entertained, educate themselves on really important issues, and to frankly create a more balanced view of the world, is one where that misinformation can just run riot, I think, and the algorithms start to decide and so on.
I think that especially like the kind of key competition for sort of news brands is literally everything that can act as a diversion on your phone.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a world where people are turning to news avoidance, if you like, and that's led to a rise in clickbait and misinformation.
Yeah, just building on that, you know, I was discussing with a client yesterday, I'm quite fearful, particularly this year, given the amount of, what's the stat, is it 40% of the global economy is going through elections this year?
Yep.
Mis and disinformation, and they're quite petrified about it. And I think there was an article in The Guardian recently that said 70% of MPs are genuinely worried about misinformation in the year of the election. Yeah. What do we believe? What do we not? And the chat I was having with a client yesterday was some of the things, a bit similar to slightly different things to what obviously your daughter's talking about. It takes 4 or 5 days to unpick whether it's true or not. Yeah. And then it's chip paper. So it's made our life and our challenge a lot harder.
Yeah. You say a couple of days. Well, actually, I saw a really interesting stat from some OMD Signals research that showed that in 2016, the average news trend on Twitter, X, lasted 11 hours. Nowadays, does anyone want to hazard a guess? It's less than 11 minutes.
Wow. And then they've moved on.
And they've moved on.
Yeah.
And that's partly because of this rise of clickbait and what have you. But I think that's fascinating.
I think as well, when you're surfing around the web trying to follow your passions, interests, things that interest you, you are subconsciously at some point going to a source to verify, is that true? Can I trust that? Yeah. And I think there's a generation that understand where to go for that. And there's a huge swathe of generation coming up that just don't know where to go to verify if that thing's true or not, which is deeply concerning. Yeah. Is it, I mean, we've kind of discussed it's not easy to measure then. And do you find yourself, because you talked about premium to you personally means escapism. I used to work in cinema. I'd say that is a media that delivers on escapism really well. So that premium of escapism, a departure from everyday life is very evident in cinema. Where it's easy to find, not so easy in other places to find, but you know audiences exist. Mm-hmm. Are there concessions made? Is it easy to standardise measurement, or is the behavioural science effort, which I know is huge in Omnigov, is that literally applying different rules to different channels because they are so different? I
mean, in an ideal world, we'd all strive for consistent measurement, but that's not the case right now, and we're still a long way off it. But we have a real culture of effectiveness and evaluation within Omnigov. We set up the KPIs that we're going to measure up front that are a real step away from media metrics. I mean, we say what the media metrics are, and then we look at what that means for sort of attitudes and what that means for the ultimate behavioural outcome. And
is there ever a conversation, though, with a leader in a government department where they say, that all sounds amazing, and it's evident you've changed behaviours, and some would argue you're the business in our industry that is saving lives with the investment you make. Do they ever go, but what was my click-through rate? What was the
sometimes just because that is the easiest thing to measure, right? So because sometimes people measure what they can measure, and so yes, sometimes we do have those conversations, but it's important that we do challenge and we do say, well, hang on, it's all very well having people clicking through, but if they then don't go on to change that behaviour, what is it achieved? You've paid a premium for something, but it's not delivering on getting people to stop smoking, to eat more healthily, to donate blood, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Without dismissing the click-through rate, because you know my view.
Well, you absolutely can dismiss that if you want.
Well, I think we, as an industry, get lost in our own bullshit sometimes. I think click-through rates and viewability, all important. But what we're trying to do, we're trying to sell products, or we're trying to save lives, or we're trying to increase the number of teacher recruits, or raise blood stock levels. So, yes, we have to capture it because it's the only one of the consistents we have. Is it the most important? No.
Yeah.
But then you get into a world then of lack of measurable elements all the way through from media outputs all the way through to genuine campaign outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's why analytics is so important, making sure that we're really looking at what the line of sight is. How do we connect those media metrics with those outcomes?
Yeah. Is there an example in the business or a couple of examples where premiumness or engaging with audiences who are paying attention in trusted environments has so clearly made the impact or the difference on?
I think there's probably a couple of examples. We do a lot for HMRC, sort of trying to encourage people to file their tax returns before the deadline. We've done a lot of those campaigns are dedicated to being in sort of premium environments, and we've seen an uplift of 34 percentage points in people recognising when the deadline is, which is absolutely phenomenal. Similar with some of the encouraging people to donate blood. There's been a lot of mistrust in the NHS amongst some communities off the back of the pandemic. So being in those trusted environments is absolutely crucial. And again, that's led to 7.4% uplift in people registering to donate blood, which is saving lives.
Yeah. The one I'd add to that is, again, we don't want to harp on too much about the pandemic, but at the start of it, we clearly had to get a lot of information across to a lot of people very quickly, and we teamed up with, we called it Team Nation, but it was all the publishers in the UK. Clearly there was available space because a lot of the brands stopped advertising, but we went with them, and we went with quite a big partnership and invested quite a lot of money, and that partnership's only recently stopped over the last few months because it allowed information, it allowed very quick reach. Some of the research coming back from it was that the trust levels in that campaign were second only to the likes of the BBC, which are always very high on any trust studies. So it's back to all the points we've said. Transparency, it was a very trusted environment that we knew was going to be brand safe, that we knew our readers or the UK citizens were going to read, and they trust in that. And it allowed us to get out some very detailed information very quickly.
Yeah. We've got a minute left. I did ask ChatGPT what for their definition of premium web, and it agreed with everything you've said, so that's just a fad. In a year of an election then, it must be more important than ever to invest and maintain a free press, a premium web, a well-informed nation, would you say?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, with the backdrop, as I say, making sure we're doing the right things, making sure that if there's any gaps that we've got, whether that's brand safety, MFA sites, which some of the stats are quite scary, how can we quickly plug those gaps with different types of measurement or finding ways through, and advising government on the best channels. But the trusting, you come back to the trusted environments with all those ingredients that I talk about. Are probably one of the most important we do, and do influence the choices we make for government. Yeah. Because unfortunately, if we did advertise in the wrong place and it did go badly, we would get our knuckles quite severely wrapped. Yeah. I was in a session earlier where synthetic data versus human data was talked about in terms of AI, and there was a question raised, thought-provoking point about have large language models or has generative AI learned enough, frankly,
that it can just do away now with human data, journalistic, regulated, self-regulated, produced content. Google just this week have removed news media links from search in California, just really in opposition to having to pay for quality news. I'd argue that is probably an example of we've learnt enough. We probably don't need to support you anymore. Really important that we do then directly at some point. And this isn't just news media, it's where real people hang out in channels, and communication needs to resonate.
Yeah, I mean, just on the AI point quickly, sorry, because I know everyone, either if you're looking through glass half full, glass half empty, is it worry, is it not? If you look at mis and disinformation, which could be generated by that, using AI for good, we should be able to quickly have something or create something that could verify whether it is mis or dis. So, even with AI, there's two sides of the coin, but if we can use it for good, it will fast track through some of these problems that we've got.
Yeah, totally agree. So just to close, because we're out of time, it's a tough one, really. Obviously, our aim is to power the premium web at Ozone, make it easier for advertisers to reach engaged audiences where they're spending time on the web. In 3 words or less, paint your picture of the premium web. What does it look like to you? What does it represent?
Oh, there you go.
Go on, you're more creative.
Trusted, transparent, regulated.
Oh, that's good. We didn't rehearse, that was good.
Yeah. Trusted, efficient, safe.
Very good. It's fascinating. We could talk forever. I'm sure you'll agree. Thank you so much, Sophia and Paul. Thank you.